heartwarming throughout.
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat, and this is the place where I talk about books and writing. So last week I had an incredibly successful reading week, and if you haven't checked out that vlog, I definitely recommend. And so this week I have a much reduced TBR. So from my May TBR bingo, I only have 3 books left. I have The Gauntlet by Karuna Riazi, which I'm reading on this Kindle Fire. This is a story about 3 teenagers who have to follow a kid brother into a board game, a bit like Jumanji, in order to rescue him and all of the people who live there. This is so far a really good read. I'm only about 20% of the way through, so they've only just stepped onto the board game, but I'm really enjoying it. I love the representation. The younger brother, the one that's missing, has ADHD, and the main character is a hijabi wearing Muslim, so far really enjoying it. The second book that I still have yet to read from my May bingo TBR is in Swedish, Milo's Fantastic Tollbooth, or in English, The Phantom Tollbooth. This is the story of a man who is bored of school and wakes up to find a toll booth in the middle of his room one day, goes through it and ends up in a land full of miraculous and marvellous creatures. Now this edition is in Swedish, so I am a bit intimidated, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to read it all because it's quite dense. If I struggle, however, I can just buy it on Amazon and then read it in English. But I am going to try and read it in Swedish because this would be the first Swedish book I have read this month. And it is a kid's book, so it should be relatively easy. Finally, the last book I haven't bought yet, and that is The Principles of Uncertainty. I still have no idea what this is going in. I think it is a collection of poems and stories that all kind of follow a theme and artwork. And I'm going to be buying that on Kindle because I couldn't find it in the library. Once I finish those 3, I've finished all of my bingo TBR, which is incredibly exciting because soon I will be rolling again for another bingo TBR. But obviously, because it's me, there are some more books that I need to read or want to read this week. Need is a strong word. That I want to read this week. A lot of these are leftovers from my TBR for March and April. A lot of these are leftovers from my TBR for March and April. So the first of these is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is a book about a detective or a man, I don't know, I haven't read it. There is a man, he keeps waking up in the body of different people who witnessed or were about in a house where a woman was murdered, and every day he wakes up in a different body and has different experiences. So we have to follow him along this journey and see if we can figure out who killed Evelyn Hardcastle. That's about as much as I know. It's a magical realism story, so it is a thriller, but as I said, a bit of Groundhog Day mixed in. And I'm excited to give this a go because I know that it's one of those reads where you have to kind of like read it all in one sitting. And it's got very mixed reviews because a lot of thriller readers don't like fantasy and a lot of fantasy readers don't like thrillers. I like both, I think, so I'm looking forward to giving this a go. The second book is also from my April TBR, and that is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. Now that I have read Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, I really want to read this. So Fangirl is about a woman who writes fanfiction, and Carry On is the fanfiction that she writes in that story. So it is about 2 roommates at a magical boarding school who may or may not fall in love. Who knows? I absolutely loved Fangirl. I knew nothing going in. I'm trying not to know anything going into this, but obviously Fangirl did spoil a couple of things from this. I'm okay with that though. I'm really excited to read this. The next book wasn't really on my April TBR, but it definitely wasn't on my May one either, and that is The Foreigner's Grave by Martin Widmark. This is another of the Viking Halfdan Viking series, where Halfdan is just the second one in the series. So in the last book there were some adventures, and in this one there will be some more adventures. This is a middle grade, I believe, so there's lots of illustrations and things like that for me to get my teeth into, and it's in Swedish, so it's good practice. So that is 6 books, 2 of which are in Swedish, so I'm sure I'm not going to be able to read any more this month. But I also wanted to finish up My Brother's Husband by Gengoroh Tagame. I'm sure I won't be able to get this from the library for a long time if I return it, and it only takes me about an hour to read a manga, half an hour to an hour to read a manga of this size. I'm just really interested to see where the story goes. I think I gave the last one 4 stars, probably going to give this one 4 stars as well if it continues on its sweet theme. There was some magical realism in the first one, which I'm hoping will continue or be explained in this one, and it's just one of those lovely coming of age stories. So I want to read this and get it back to the library for other people to enjoy. Alright, that is my plans for the week. They are ridiculously ambitious and involve me purchasing another book. Hopefully this month's bingo rolls won't require quite as much purchasing. We'll have to wait and see. And yeah, I'm just really excited to get started and get reading. Do you remember that time this morning when I told you exactly what I was going to read for the week and I was super confident about it? Well, the library have requested these two back by the end of the month, so I have some serious rejigging to do. This one is first and then this one, so I'm going to be trying to finish the Gauntlet, and then depending on my state of mind, if I need a contemporary, I will read My Brother's Husband. If I don't, I will jump straight into Nevernight. And then again, if I need a contemporary, I will read something, and then I will jump straight into The Lives of Locke Lamora. Now this is a 500-page book, and this is a 600-page book, so I have my reading cut out for me, is what I'm saying. My beautiful safe plans are gone now. But in other news, while I was out visiting the library, I got a package. Let's open it and see what's inside. I know what's inside, I ordered it. But it might still be a surprise. So the first book I got is a non-fiction, and it is Sell It Like Sirhan. Ryan Sirhan is a fellow YouTuber, although a much more successful one, and he also hosts the $1 Million Estate Agent or something in America. He wrote this book about how selling yourself and selling things isn't shameful, and I really need to read it because I am about to start my life as a consultant where I will constantly be selling myself to clients. So this is going to be really interesting and really intriguing. I'm not a salesperson. I'm just me. I talk on YouTube about books sometimes, maybe, but I don't, you know, I'm a programmer. I sit at desk and program things, and clearly I do not dress the part. Look at his shiny face. And the second book is the group book for the Asian Readathon, and that is 1,000 Beginnings and Endings. I actually wasn't going to buy this because it is only out in hardback, and I think hardbacks are really expensive, so I try not to buy them unless there is a special reason, like a readathon with my dad. And I also don't like short story compilations. But a couple of people on Booktube have been absolutely raving about some of the short stories in here, so I really wanted to give it a read and see if I enjoyed it as much as they did. So I'm going to be also trying to squeeze this in before the end of the month, but at this rate, I don't know, friends. I don't know. Hi guys, it's still Monday. I didn't really read today. Yeah. So it is Tuesday morning and I've just read for an hour. I read Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I felt like the world building was quite clumsy in the beginning, and the repeated, so if you haven't read it, there are repeated sections of text, like parallel stories. So it'll be, the first one, for example, is her meeting a boy and then her following a man, and they repeat each other essentially exactly, but it'll be like, his skin was soft, and then the other passage will begin, his skin was withered or whatever, and I find that really, really annoying. Like, I'm like, please can we not do this? So there are also sarcastic little footmarks in this one, and I feel like that was done a lot better, or at least more naturally and more funnily, more humour-filled in the Bartimaeus trilogy, which was, I think, young adult, and this is adult. So far it's okay. So far nothing exciting is happening, but it is okay. I'm gonna try and hit maybe 150 pages today, but I'm not sure I will because I am really struggling to read lately. I think the Bingo-a-thon might have burnt me out with all its excellent books. Hi guys, so I finished the Gauntlet today. That one was a really sweet middle grade. It didn't really do anything like revolutionary for me. It was a pretty average book, and I'm gonna rate it 3 stars, but I really enjoyed the kind of like different elements of culture, including the sweets and the architecture and things like that. I haven't yet picked up Nevernight today, but I'm still planning on finishing it this week since it needs to go back to the library by Saturday, I think, and I can't renew it. And the same is true for Lives of Locke Lamora, but luckily that's the next Saturday, and I can't renew that one either, so I really need to get reading. This one will be my pick for tomorrow. Tomorrow, obviously, I'm going to run in the morning, and then I have a doctor's appointment around lunchtime, but other than that, I'm free to read and write all day. So it is a Wednesday evening. I picked up Nevernight. I'm now about 174 pages in. I was really hoping to get to 250 today. I don't think that's going to happen, but I am going to go outside and read now on the balcony and hopefully make a little bit more progress. It is picking up now that the endless flashbacks have kind of slowed down, and we're actually in the place that we were going to go to. So I'm looking forward to reading this. It is very similar to the plot of my book though, so I'm kind of worried about that, but hopefully it'll be fine. It's very different themes, I think, and Jay Kristoff's writing is also a lot more vulgar, so hopefully I will be fine. Murder Dad, political scheming, and the monsters are all very similar, so who knows? But that's where I am at with this one. Hello my friends, it is Thursday and I have literally just read about 400 pages of Nevernight. Once this story got going, boy did it get going. It was masterfully written, it was perfection. I loved it so much. Like, Jay Kristoff, man, wow. This was incredible. Kudos so much for the recommendation. The Bald Book Geek was the one who gave me this recommendation, or gave everyone this recommendation, and he is definitely linked down below. He is absolutely right, this is not a YA novel, but it was fantastic. It was so good. I was hooked. The twists and turns, very, very good. So good. Loved it. Now I'm gonna have to find a way to get the next one from the library and into my TBR, bingo TBR for next month, because I don't know if I can survive without reading the next one. This was a full 5 stars from me. It was beautiful from about page 120 onwards. I was just in love with this book. I can't, like, seriously, I have goosebumps. Can you see the goosebumps? Can you see them? That's how good the ending was. It is just finished. Like, I couldn't even wait for the dishwasher to stop. Hear that? That's the dishwasher. That's how keen I was to tell you how amazing this book was. Didn't brush my hair. None of these things matter. Still in my pajamas since I woke up, because I've been reading this the whole morning. Pick this up. So it is Thursday evening, and obviously I finished Nevernight today, and then I picked up the fantastical Tollbooth. I still have no idea what this is called in English. I just read 2 chapters. I wanted to break into it today just because I get kind of scared of Swedish books, and then I don't really want to start them because I'm like, I will never be good enough to read in Swedish, and then I start them and it's fine. So I really wanted to break into this one, and I did. So I read the first 2 chapters. I'm now on Welcome to Dictionary Land, or Lexiconstantinople. And my goal for tomorrow will be to get about halfway through this book and possibly then pick up an English book so that I have kind of like something to read to relax as well, because reading in another language can be quite tiring. I'm also reading the summary of this, like in English as I read, so I'll read chapters 1 and 2, and then I'll go and read the summary for chapters 1 and 2, just to make sure that I fully understand all of the subtext, because a lot of this is wordplay, and it's very fun and very lighthearted, but it's very hard to follow if you're not a native speaker. Now obviously this is originally in English, so if you want to go and check it out, you can. Good morning, guys! It is Saturday. I'm sorry I didn't catch up with you yesterday. I actually fell asleep reading, which was a bit embarrassing, but I'm here again with you. This week's been a bit of a bust. I finished 2 books and started another one that was Milo's Fantastisches Tollhaus, or the Fantastic Tollhouse, maybe? I can never remember the English title of this book. I am roughly 60 pages into this, and I'd really like to hit 120 before the end of the day, because then it will feel like this whole reading vlog was worth it. And I also want to start and finish My Brother's Husband Volume 2 today. So I started it just maybe 10 minutes ago, and I'm a ways through, so I feel like I can definitely finish this today, and that will be 3 books and a half, because that will feel like I've actually accomplished something this week in terms of reading, other than discovering Nevernight, which was, to be fair, impeccable. But yes, so let's get reading. So I just wanted to say this book is freaking adorable. Like, we've had a bee called the Spanning Bee, and then you go to a banquet where you have to speak what you want before the meal begins, and then everyone eats their words. And then for pudding they have half-baked ideas from the half-baked oven, and it is just wonderful. I love it so much. So I just got back from town. I have been to the Chinese store, or actually technically the Thai store, to buy noodles and my favourite snacks of all time, which is a toss-up between these and these. So yeah, it's been a pretty productive morning. And I also went to the second-hand bookstore, which is where my arm is on fire, and I bought 5 books. It was kind of weird because they had like English sections mixed in with the Swedish section, and the other bookstore that I wanted to go to was like closing in 5 minutes because she was going to a wedding. So I was like, okay, well, I'll come back here another time. Great Tales from English History Volume 3, I think. He's done a whole bunch of these, and they're like stories but are true, so it's like non-fiction, but it's entertaining non-fiction. And since Game of Thrones is drawn from the War of the Roses, I figured this would be really good inspiration for my own historical fantasies. Then we have Lady Chatterley's Lover, which is a classic that people love and I have never read. Then we have book 6 from that series that I have the book 1 for, and none of the other ones, but I saw it and I wanted it, so I bought it, and sorry not sorry, I guess. I also got Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and I might actually do a book vlog for this because I've never read it, and I went to one of the book days, dressed as a character from this, even though I'd never seen it. And then finally we have the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, which I was like, the world went mad about, and I'm kind of surprised to find this. So it is the end of the week. It is Saturday, it is around 5 p.m, so it's time to talk about which books I finished this week. Now, the first one I want to talk about I read on my Kindle Fire, and that was The Gauntlet by Karuna Riazi. So The Gauntlet is about a young girl whose ADHD brother runs into a Jumanji-like board game which has inexplicably expanded in her room. She is encouraged by her aunt to go after him. If she wins this board game and kind of like dueling of wits, then she can free all of the people who have ever been trapped inside the board game, the Gauntlet. However, if she loses, she, her friends and her brother are going to be stuck there forever. The sad thing is that her brother entered like seconds before her in the real world, but hours before her in game time, and because he's not part of the team, he just can run anywhere he likes and is not kind of bound to the challenges. She has to fight to get him back. I thought this book was okay. I didn't really like the aspects where it was mainly her and not her two friends that went with her that were kind of solving puzzles. It would have been nice to see some character progression there, other than just the friendship progression. I did really enjoy the brother-sister relationship and also the way that various creatures in the world existed, but I would have liked to see that fleshed out a bit more as well. However, this was a middle grade, so it's kind of hard to get the world building that you want from it. The next book I read this week was Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. This book was incredible. It is about Mia Corvera. That's how you know it's a good book, when I know the name of the main character. Mia's father is executed for treason, and her mother and little brother are enslaved in something called the Philosopher's Stone, which is a prison without light. Mia has decided that the only way she can really continue living with herself after escaping is to train as a master assassin. So this book chronicles whether or not she manages to train as a master assassin and what she does. She also has this kind of weird affinity with shadows and the dark, which is explained throughout the text, and the world building in this one is absolutely superb. This is a dark adult fantasy. It has a lot of world building through footnotes and kind of like sarcastic comments. It is very vulgar in places. There is a warning at the beginning that it is very vulgar, so just take my word for it. But it was so beautiful. The first 100 pages sucked ass, but the rest of the book was so good, 10 out of 10. So, well, actually, 5 out of 5. Check my Goodreads. The third book that I finished this week was My Brother's Husband, Volume 2 by Gengoroh Tagame. I cried twice. I cried around the halfway mark, and then I cried at the end. This book is about a Japanese adult man who is raising his daughter on his own as a single father after a divorce, and the Canadian man that comes to visit him, who is his brother's husband. The little girl is absolutely enamored with this guy, and he is kind of learning that he might have some unconscious biases, and kind of like learning how to react when people say they're LGBTQ+. That's a lot of letters. We should really shorten that. And yeah, it's just an absolutely wonderful tale. It's very heartwarming. It really shows some very deep character development. Actually, the first book had much less character development than the second book. The second book was so heartwarming. Like, this book was so good. There was true character development, or we got to see the character development progress. We got to see the main character like finally standing up for himself. It was just really good. I definitely recommend picking up these two. The last book that I picked up this month was The Phantom Tollbooth. Look, I remembered the title. I'm only about 80 pages of the way through currently, but I am finding it absolutely beautiful and really fun to read. It's just that it's in Swedish, so my reading speed is a lot slower in Swedish, and also I kind of like get really tired if I'm reading in Swedish, hence falling asleep last night because my brain is working so hard. I am getting better and better at kind of like reading in Swedish and not translating into my head. But yes, I'm still working on this one. And finally, I picked up The Changing of the Guard by Matt Spencer, again on the Kindle Fire. Now, I had read 10% of this during my holiday in April. The first 6 female characters we meet are very much viewed for the main character's pleasure, but I read on Goodreads that that does improve, so I'm going to be trying to read this book and making maybe a book blog for it. Unfortunately, my loan on it expires June 6th, so I've got to get some reading done between then and now, and I still have to get quite a number of books back to the library. So next week looks like it's going to be interesting, but this week I managed to finish 3 books and get halfway through one, which is not too bad, especially given the hangover I had after Bingo-a-thon. Alright guys, I'm going to sign off now. Don't forget to look out for my Bingo TBR, which is coming out on Friday of this week. I hope you've had a lovely cup of tea and an incredible book. If you have, link down in the comments below. Send love, send appreciation. YouTubers literally thrive on the positive feedback, and yeah. Whose brother? I don't know why I'm talking like this. I mean, I do. It's because I have watched so many drama videos in the last 12 hours of my life. All right. But I did also want to finish up My Brother's Husband by Gengoroh Tagame. I also wanted to finish